Have you ever wondered how a land of frozen winters built one of the most powerful empires on Earth? Which nation rose from frozen lands, survived empires, revolutions, and wars, yet still stands strong today? How did one civilization stretch across 11 time zones, from icy tundras to shining modern cities, once shattered by invasion, famine, and revolution, yet reborn again and again? What gives this land its unbreakable spirit? This is the story of a land that defied empires, challenged the world, and shaped the course of history itself. This is Russia, a land of icy winters and fiery revolutions, where kings became emperors and empires turned to ashes. This is Russia, vast, mysterious, and powerful, a nation that shaped the world's destiny, from the golden crown of the Tsars to the red shadow of the Cold War. Snow falls on the Kremlin, soldiers march through history, and the spirit of 1,000 years still breathes through its land. From the early tribes of the Rus, born along the Dnieper River, rose the first Russian state, Kievan Rus. It was the cradle of Eastern Slavic civilization, a world of warriors, traders, and princes bound by faith and power. But history in Russia is never calm. Mongol invaders swept the land. Fire and fear consumed cities. Yet from the ashes, Moscow rose, strong, defiant, and eternal. Then came the age of Tsars, Ivan the Terrible, Peter the Great, and Catherine the Great, rulers who built cathedrals and empires with iron will. Under their reign, Russia expanded from the frozen Arctic to the warm shores of the Black Sea. The empire's might was unmatched, but deep beneath the crown, revolution whispered. Around the 9th century, in the heart of Eastern Europe, scattered Slavic tribes lived along the great rivers, silent, vast, and wild. But destiny was already sailing their way. From the icy northern seas came the Varangians, Viking warriors and traders, strong in spirit and skill. They brought unity where there was division, courage where there was chaos. Under their leader, Prince Rurik, the tribes were united, and from that unity the first great Russian state was born. It was called Kievan Rus, the beginning of Russian civilization. Along the mighty Dnieper River, wooden forts rose, merchants traveled with furs, silver, and silk, and a new power began to take shape. The city of Kiev became a shining heart of trade and faith, connecting the north to Byzantium, a bridge between worlds. But Russia's story was not written only in steel and conquest. It was written in belief. In the year 988, Prince Vladimir the Great looked south toward the Byzantine Empire, the most advanced civilization of its time. He chose to embrace Christianity, bringing faith, art, and culture to his people. Under the golden glow of Byzantine mosaics, churches rose across the land, and the sound of bells echoed over the rivers. It was a moment that changed Russia forever. In 1240, the Mongol storm swept across the Russian plains. Cities burned, kingdoms fell, and the once mighty Kievan Rus was crushed beneath the hooves of the Golden Horde. For more than 2 centuries, the Mongols ruled the Russian lands, demanding tribute, silencing rebellion, and shaping the destiny of a nation through fear and fire. Yet even in the shadows of conquest, a new power began to rise. Amid ashes and ruins, one city stood firm: Moscow. Protected by forests and rivers, it grew quietly, gathering strength, wealth, and faith. In 1325, Moscow became the spiritual heart of the Orthodox Church, giving hope to a people longing for freedom. Priests, merchants, and warriors all turned their eyes toward this new center. The future of Russia was being forged there. The Mongols controlled through fear, but Moscow led through unity. Princes of Moscow collected tribute, built alliances, and prepared for the day Russia would rise again. That day came under the rule of Ivan III, Ivan the Great, a visionary ruler who refused to kneel. He united the scattered Russian lands and challenged the might of the horde. In 1547, a new chapter of Russian history began, one written in both glory and blood. A young ruler, fierce and brilliant, ascended the throne and crowned himself Ivan IV, Ivan the Terrible, the first Tsar of all Russia. With fire in his eyes and power in his hands, he transformed a kingdom into an empire. Under his rule, Russia expanded across vast frontiers, conquering the khanates of Kazan and Astrakhan, and reaching toward Siberia's frozen lands. But with greatness came darkness. Ivan's rage and paranoia consumed his court. His wrath struck friend and foe alike, and his reign left scars that would haunt Russia for generations. After Ivan's death in 1584, the empire fell into chaos. A dark age descended, known as the Time of Troubles. Famine swept the land, impostors claimed the throne, and foreign armies, including the Poles, invaded a broken Russia. The people suffered, faith wavered, and the future of the nation hung by a thread. Yet, from this storm, hope rose once again. In 1613, the Russian nobles gathered and chose a young prince, Mikhail Romanov, to restore order and unity. In 1682, a towering figure rose to power, a man who would drag Russia out of the medieval world and thrust it into a new age. His name was Peter the Great, bold, relentless, and visionary. He looked westward, toward Europe's progress, and vowed to transform his nation. Peter built armies, forged a navy, and shattered centuries of old traditions. He demanded change in dress, in science, in spirit, pushing Russia to modernize by force of will. Then came his greatest creation, St. Petersburg, founded in 1703 on the shores of the Baltic. A city born from swamps and dreams, carved by the hands of thousands. It became Russia's window to the West, a symbol of progress, ambition, and empire. Under Peter's rule, Russia became a power the world could no longer ignore. Decades later, another ruler would take that vision even further, Catherine the Great. Ascending the throne in 1762, she brought brilliance, culture, and intelligence to the crown. Catherine expanded the empire deep into the Black Sea and across vast new lands, while filling her court with philosophers, artists, and thinkers of the Enlightenment. Under her reign, Russia stood not just as a military force, but as a center of art, intellect, and civilization. In the 19th century, the Russian Empire stood vast and proud, but beneath its power, the fires of change were already burning. In 1812, the world's greatest conqueror, Napoleon Bonaparte, marched deep into Russia with a massive army. But the Russian spirit would not yield. Moscow burned rather than surrender, and the brutal winter crushed Napoleon's forces. Out of the ashes, Russia emerged as the nation that defeated an emperor, a symbol of endurance and defiance. Yet victory could not hide the suffering of the people. For centuries, millions lived as serfs, bound to the land and their masters. In 1861, Tsar Alexander II took a daring step. He abolished serfdom, freeing over 20 million peasants. But freedom came with hardship, and the empire struggled to balance tradition with progress. Industrial cities rose, ideas of revolution spread, and whispers of change grew louder in every corner of the nation. By 1905, unrest exploded into protest and bloodshed, the First Russian Revolution. Workers, soldiers, and peasants demanded rights, while the monarchy fought to keep control. It was the beginning of the end for the old order. In 1917, after centuries of monarchy and revolution, a new power rose from the chaos, the Soviet Union. Under Vladimir Lenin, the dream of a socialist state began. He united the vast lands of the old empire into one, the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics, or USSR. Factories replaced palaces, red flags waved over the Kremlin, and a new order promised equality for all. But this dream came with struggle, sacrifice, and control. After Lenin's death in 1924, Joseph Stalin seized power. Under his iron rule, the Soviet Union transformed into an industrial and military giant. Cities rose, steel flowed, and the nation prepared for war. But millions paid the price, through purges, fear, and famine. Then came World War II. As Nazi forces invaded in 1941, the Soviet people fought with unmatched courage. In 1945, they stood victorious, their flag raised over the ruins of Berlin, a triumph that defined a generation. The war ended, but a new conflict began, the Cold War. From 1947 to 1991, the Soviet Union and the United States faced each other in a global contest of power, ideology, and technology. It was an era of spies, nuclear tension, and the race to the... In 1991, the Soviet Union collapsed, and from its ruins, a new nation emerged, the Russian Federation. But freedom came with chaos. Throughout the 1990s, Russia struggled to rebuild itself. Under Boris Yeltsin, the country shifted toward capitalism. Markets opened, industries privatized, and fortunes were made and lost overnight. The old order was gone, and the new one was uncertain. It was a time of hardship, hope, and transformation. Then, in 2000, a new leader rose, Vladimir Putin. Strong, strategic, and determined, he promised stability after a decade of turmoil. Under his leadership, Russia's economy began to recover, cities modernized, and a sense of national pride returned. By the 2010s, Russia stood once again as a major global power, confident, assertive, and unafraid to challenge the world stage. In 2014, the annexation of Crimea marked a turning point. Supporters saw it as the return of historic Russian lands. Critics called it aggression. Tensions with the West deepened, sanctions followed, and a new era of geopolitical rivalry began. Russia's story is not only written in wars and empires, it is also sung, painted, and dreamed. Through every century, its culture and spirit have remained unshaken. Rooted deeply in the Orthodox faith, Russian life has always been shaped by beauty, ritual, and belief. Golden domes glimmer under the northern sun, while the sound of church bells echoes across endless plains, a timeless call to soul and tradition. In its art and literature, Russia speaks to the world's heart. Writers like Leo Tolstoy and Fyodor Dostoevsky explored the depths of humanity: love, guilt, faith, and redemption. Their words became eternal mirrors of the Russian soul. Composers such as Tchaikovsky turned emotion into melody, from the thunder of the 1812 overture to the grace of Swan Lake. And on grand stages, the Bolshoi Ballet brought Russian passion and discipline to life. Every movement, a story of power and poetry. From painted icons to symphonies, from ancient folklore to modern art, Russian culture remains a bridge between its turbulent past and eternal spirit. It is a culture of resilience and brilliance, where suffering births creativity and faith inspires greatness. Through every storm, one thing endures: the soul of Russia, strong, proud, and forever alive. From the frozen forests of Kievan Rus to the shining skyscrapers of modern Moscow, Russia's journey is one carved in fire and ice. For more than 1,000 years, this land has faced invaders, revolutions, and rebirth. Yet it endures, unbroken. Empires have risen and fallen, borders have shifted, rulers have come and gone. But the spirit of Russia has never faded. It is a spirit born of struggle, forged in war, faith, and pride. From the chants of monks in ancient cathedrals to the roar of rockets piercing the sky, every era has left its mark on this vast and powerful nation. The world has tried to understand Russia, but Russia is not meant to be understood. It is meant to be felt. From 862 to 2025, it remains a story of strength, sacrifice, and survival. A nation that bends, but never breaks. Because in the heart of every Russian, there beats a force as endless as its land, and as timeless as its soul. This is Russia, where history never ends, it only transforms.